Welcome to this episode of the Standing Ovation.
Trade finance really acts as that bridge between the importers or the buyers, the exporters or the suppliers, and really providing the necessary financial tools and support to facilitate that international trade. So this typically includes account opening, receivables, payables, credit management, risk management tools. And so, you know, an example of retail, for instance, would be buyers like Target, Walmart, Foot Locker, and the suppliers could be textile manufacturers in Vietnam or the electronics manufacturers in Korea. And really, it's just maintaining the flow of funds. And so, if you don't have, a cohesive system to make sure that the money's getting where it needs to get, that boat might not be leaving the dock in Bangladesh. That plane might be sitting on the tarmac. And so, again, the main goal is to maintain the flow of funds and the guarantees throughout the global trade network, and with an emphasis on just enhancing global trade relationships. So by improving cash flow, by improving cross-border market access, and really mitigating the risk for both the buyers and suppliers in their day-to-day. So when you look at the main function of trade finance, I think that really captures it. It's how do we enhance global trade relationships through a very highly functional financial system. So when you look at trade finance and banking, there's kind of two core aspects of that. One is maintaining the flow of funds within that network of buyers and suppliers. But then the second, which is actually some of the most important aspect, is managing that network of buyers and suppliers. So making sure that they're effectively onboarded, making sure that everything is configured appropriately. So when it comes to transferring money from point A to point B, that the money actually gets there. So it's a lot more than just the financial tools to make sure that the money's moving. It's also the operational tools, the operational processes to make sure that buyers and suppliers are set up correctly in the network and make sure that, once they go live, everything flows seamlessly. The onboarding process really varies, and that's one of the main challenges that we see within the trade finance organizations. So is this a single supplier? Is this a single buyer? Is this an enterprise organization that's bringing on a group of buyer suppliers? Are they new or current customers to the bank? Are they going to require full KYC and credit facilities? So when you start factoring in all of those, different types of buyers and suppliers, and then all of the individual products and services, there are hundreds of permutations that these relationship managers are being expected to manage. So the bank brings on a new supplier and they'll have program managers work to onboard them onto the bank's platforms. Then, depending on the criteria, they'll run one of those hundreds of processes to get them onboarded. So this includes things like requirement gathering, verification, jurisdictional and geographic requirements, again, KYC or AML, setting up the origination channels. All of these tasks are currently done manually. And there's this configuration and ongoing management that really makes sure that once a supplier goes live, you can effectively manage that relationship. Make sure that there is a seamless transfer of funds. So managing that cross-border compliance, transaction processing, document extraction, document checking, all of these tasks are being expected to be managed by a single person or a single team. And frankly, the systems and tools that they're working out of, don't support them in their day-to-day. Like most commercial banking products, trade finance solutions are very much third-party enabled. So their operations teams have compiled dozens of different platforms and partnerships to pull together this comprehensive offering that includes not only the financial tools, but then also the operational tools to manage the onboarding and servicing of that ecosystem. Now, I think what we've seen is the challenges, these ecosystems aren't well organized. So information sharing is manual, communications are not great. The legacy systems that the banks are working out of lack flexibility and frankly require heavy annual investment just to keep the lights on. And I think the biggest challenge from an operational perspective is that it provides limited visibility, not only to the folks that are doing the work, so the relationship managers, but then also the clients. They have no idea where they are in any given process and what is expected of them. So when we have these conversations, leaders come to us and say, I have a problem. We have almost no ability to aggregate all of the data, which means the insights that we have within our operations are skewed. Then the organizational complexity of that ecosystem has created this massive administrative burden. And so really our teams are struggling to do the work that is required to make sure that our customers are having great experiences, and it's starting to trickle throughout that entire client experience. And it's taking and like I said earlier, it's taking massive investment just to keep the lights on. What we've seen with trade finance, one of the main challenges is these ecosystems aren't well organized. So information sharing is manual, communications across teams, across organizations are not great. These legacy systems that the banks are working out of, frankly, don't support what they need to do on a day-to-day basis. They lack flexibility and they require heavy annual investment just to keep them running. And then lastly, I think from an operational perspective, the bigger challenge is there's limited visibility. So the people that are doing the work, the program managers, the relationship managers don't actually know what is going on in a real-time basis within any of those client journeys. And then on the other side, clients have no idea where they are in those journeys as well. What is expected of them? So most leaders come to us and say, hey, we have a problem. We have almost no ability to aggregate the data effectively, which means that the insights into the operations are skewed and the organizational complexity within our ecosystem is only expanding. And so it's creating this massive administrative burden for our teams. They're struggling to do the work that they need to do with the systems that they have. And it's taking massive investment just to keep the lights on within these organizations. So, really what we focus on is how can we streamline that client experience from end to end within the management of those buyers and suppliers in that ecosystem. So banks make significant investments in both people and technology to manage their buyer and supplier relationships. And onboarding, they're months-long projects, and the management of those relationships is obviously ongoing. So what does that actually look like? From our experience, a single program manager or relationship manager can oversee 120, maybe 140 buyers or suppliers. So scale that out to 5, 6, 7,000 customers, and you're looking at a team of 40 to 60 people. Now, that obviously doesn't include supervisors, that doesn't include managers, but then you start to layer in the technology investment, and we quickly get to 8 figures of annual investment, really just to maintain the status quo within that, within those operations. So, what are the risks when the leaders come to us and ask us, how can you help solve this? I think the first is highly manual processes. They're time consuming and they're prone to errors. You have humans that are doing processes that frankly could have been automated decades ago. And then with that, OpEx is skyrocketing. As that complexity of that ecosystem increases, it's just taking more people to manage it effectively. And then lastly, when you look at, all the required documentation and tasks to get someone effectively onboarded, you see these onboarding timelines extending. So we're seeing longer times to revenue, all of which are major challenges that these banks are facing. And frankly, they don't really have a clear path to solving them. So when we talk about ecosystem complexity within trade finance, we see on average, a bank will be managing a network of 3,000, 4,000, maybe 5,000 buyers and suppliers. You have dozens of different products. The teams are working out of 20, 30 different systems just to be effective in what they're doing. And so you look downstream, some of the operational challenges that exist with that. You have teams that are working out of 20, 30 different systems just to manage their day to day in a network of thousands of suppliers. And so the combination of different efforts that they need to work through on a day to day basis makes it almost impossible to do their job effectively. We're seeing downstream issues with the time it's taking to onboard, with the time it's taking to actually manage and squash questions that come in around, their trade finance operations. And so, again, some of these challenges that banks are facing, they just don't really have a clear path in actually solving them with the technology that they're using today. When we look at the functionality that Ovation CXM provides to solve these pain points for the trade finance groups, we like to break it into 3 buckets. So the first being build. Let's give the teams that are doing the work the ability to create, edit, and deploy dynamic buyer and supplier journeys in a cloud-based editor. So give them the tools to manage the journeys that they're ultimately responsible for. And then taking their ideal state journeys, whether it be onboarding and management, and then creating an easy way to manage all the variants, all the jurisdictional or geographic variants from all the different origination channels and creating dynamic paths for each. And then once we have that configured, we get into manage. So providing program and relationship managers who are used to working at dozens of various systems, a single interface to manage the entire experience from end to end. And then from a customer or partner facing perspective, so from a buyer and supplier perspective, it's offering them an omni-channel service gateway, real-time visibility into the journey or the journeys that they're working through, where they are in any given journey, what is expected of them, and what documentation do they need to provide to make sure that they're effectively moving, from point A to point B. And then the last portion is optimize. How do we use the data from every single interaction across all jurisdictions, across all products and services, and really uncover the areas that are slowing these journeys down? And then from there, you can actually find low-hanging opportunities to automate these tasks through integrations or APIs. And so, again, those three buckets is how do we build and orchestrate those journeys? How do we allow teams to manage them at scale? And then use the data that they have from those day-to-day interactions to optimize each journey moving forward. So one of the main challenges that we see within trade finance operations is the teams that are doing the work are having to work out of dozens of different systems. So they're using a workflow system in one screen, they're using document capture in another screen, or form capture in a third. And there has never been a single platform that can actually funnel all of these activities into a single cohesive buyer or supplier journey. So what we offer is a drag and drop builder, a way to build those journeys at scale and deploy them out and then easily edit and manage them once we have the data to optimize them. So one of the major challenges that the operations teams within these trade finance groups are dealing with is that they've never had a single platform that allows them to manage the end-to-end client experience. And so we have, who the customer is, what products and services are we onboarding, where they are in any given journey. And then third, it's the data and the insights. So how do I take all of the historical instances of clients going through this specific journey and start to use machine learning models to deliver relevant content knowledge, act as a co-pilot for them as they are working through these onboarding journeys. So it truly gives them a dashboard to be able to go in and have all of the information that they need to be successful in their day-to-day in a single screen, in a single platform. When you look at the outcomes that we've achieved with some of the trade finance organizations or banks that we're working with, first we're seeing a 30% reduction in time to onboard. So shaving weeks off of their historical benchmarks. And then when you get into journey orchestration, automation, again, the machine learning models of knowledge delivery, we're more than doubling the number of buyers and suppliers that our teams can manage. So what was historically maybe 120, 140 buyers and suppliers per program manager, we're now north of 300. And then downstream from there, we're seeing double-digit increases in customer satisfaction, double-digit increases in employee satisfaction. So the bank customers are having fantastic experiences. They're having fantastic first impressions. And then the teams that are doing the work are no longer dreading the game of pinball that they're used to playing when managing their day-to-day. So when banks come to us and they say, hey, how do we get started with this? Our first step is always to schedule a journey mapping session. So these are structured sessions where we get all the stakeholders from all different levels in the organization, from the management, the leaders in the organization, to the folks that are doing the work. And we get them in the same room and we map out each step, each process, each system and tool. What are the teams that we're working with? What are the third-party partners and platforms that we're working with? And we go step by step and we start to identify pain points within those journeys. And what we do is we come out of there with a fantastic view of what our ideal state journey is. And then we can use the Ovation CX platform to map that directly into the system. So that's how we build our ideal state journeys within the drag and drop builder within Ovation CXM.